Welcome back to the Propel podcast. We've got a really special one today. We've got Vadim here with us. Vadim's someone that I've known for probably around 12 years now. He was actually one of the first clients I ever worked with in my first job. And he's been a client of Propel for 7 years now. So we thought it would be a special podcast to do, 7 years with 77 Diamonds. So yeah, it should be a really interesting podcast. We're going to be talking about the journey that we've been on together, but also Vadim's journey as one of the co-founders of 77 Diamonds. Probably some really useful information that people can pick up on about that journey. So let's get stuck into it. So Vadim, maybe you want to do a quick introduction to yourself and maybe a bit of an elevator pitch for 77 Diamonds.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, so I'm Vadim, Weinig, CEO of 77 Diamonds and co-founder. So we started 77 just about 20 years ago now. It's just about the 20-year anniversary approaching. And it's been a long journey. I think you've been part of it for at least for longer than half of it, in truth, beyond Propel. And so the quick elevator pitch is we're a luxury e-commerce platform that sells mostly bridal jewelry. So actually we sell all types of jewelry, but we're known for bridal jewelry. And we're expanding that a bit as well. And we started in a basement some 20 years ago as a company with other companies. And we had a mini showroom there. And today we're now located in 14. We have 14 showrooms located in I think 7 countries across 2 continents. So UK, Europe, and the UAE. And I think we were one of the leading jewelers in the UK and Europe actually. So it's been a long journey, and happy to be here.
Yeah, I think you guys were one of the first to market as well, right? From an e-commerce perspective.
Back
from a diamond point of view.
Yeah, so back in the day, you had a company called Cool Diamonds. I'm gonna try not to name too many other companies, even if they don't exist today anymore. But it was a kind of a fun name, and they were based in Hatton Garden. They had launched the first proper website in the UK. But they weren't purely online. It was all about the Hatton Garden showroom, the location as well, and we were the first ones to really push the needle on the e-commerce side of things, and a lot of people were doubting it. They were saying, but are you sure it's a good idea? People need to feel and touch. Nobody's going to buy an engagement ring online. And but the thing is that it had already happened. You already had Blue Nile in the States. We weren't really the first ones. And so we knew the concept was proven. So it wasn't a surprise for us that it would work. We just didn't know how well it could work. And we knew we needed to be better than others, because we were, that soon after we launched, others launched as well. And so, so it's always been a competitive industry from day one, or competitive angle from day one. And over the years, a lot of companies have come and gone.
So you and I initially met when I'd just started out in my career in PPC, working for an agency, and you guys had signed up, and you were one of the first clients. What was going on in the world back then? Where was the business, and why did you initially move? Why were you initially deciding to work with an agency?
Yeah, so we went from one agency. Yeah, at the beginning, I think it's useful to, especially in those days, I think you had less of a freelancing culture, which has grown a lot in the last 10, 15 years.
Well, it was a brand new industry, wasn't it? So there was no one that you couldn't get experienced people, could you? It was really, they didn't exist.
They didn't exist. And also, I think in general, starting with an agency is not such a bad idea. It gives you structure. It's a little bit easier to gauge. You've got more cover as opposed to relying on just one person that you may not know very well. I think the issues with agencies is that after even if you choose the right agency, after the first few months, or if you're lucky, after the first year or two, things start degrading. It always happens, unless you're with Propel.
Of course.
And so what happened is exactly that. Things didn't work out so well. We'll get on later about what some of the things that really didn't work out very well. And actually it was Tobias, my business partner's idea. He was like, why don't you go have lunch with Rob? And we were chatting or something like that. And I thought, let's have lunch with Rob. So we did. and
Pizza.
yeah, pizza.
We had pizza. Went to an
Pizza.
Italian.
Yeah, went to an Italian,
Yeah.
and so good memory.
Yeah.
Around the corner, a good one.
Yep.
And basically was explaining that things really not working out with our paid campaigns anymore, and that we need a change. We probably need a new agency, or need a new structure, or need to take it in-house. I wasn't sure. And that's when you said, you know what, I might start my own agency. And I was like, oh, well, that's a good idea. We might be your first client.
That was it. That was the trigger for Propel starting. Because I'd kind of always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to do it. And actually, at the time, I was house sitting someone. I was in between buying a house, and they lived in a really nice house that had a really nice view. And I was chatting to my wife, being like, "We're never going to get to buy a house like this. The only way we could ever do this is if I set up a business or we get lucky or something." And then, literally during that period, I'd met with you, and me and Becky were just like, "Right, let's just do it. If Vadim trusts us to do it, let's do it."
Yeah, for us it was a no-brainer, because we, from all the... What was your position when you started at Periscopics?
I would have just been an account manager, just a PPC manager.
So on record. So from all the account managers / people working on our account, Rob was by far the best one.
Obviously.
And so we were looking for somebody like Rob to be able to work with, either at an agency or freelancing, or as it happened, by you starting up your own agency. So that was a very easy decision, and I'm glad for you it worked out as well, and for us. Touchwood continues.
Touchwood, yeah. It's probably quite a surprise as well that you decided to do it, given the fact that we messed up your campaigns quite significantly, didn't we, in the very first months working together.
Yeah.
For the previous agency.
You will come back to that in a second, but you messed them up so good that the condition was that if we start working with you, you have to always keep an eye on them.
To
make sure that...
Make sure nothing gets messed up. No more messing up.
But yeah, so what happened again when the campaigns were messed up?
I mean, I do remember a few things, but I think the main thing was that we spent a lot of money in Australia, right? Yeah. I think back then probably at least 90% of your revenue came from the UK.
Yeah.
And I think we ended up spending quite a significant percentage in Australia. Yeah, that didn't land very well.
I actually still don't understand how that happened.
Me either.
Yeah. All I know is that was around 2012.
Yep.
As it happens, I was a bit burnt out at that point. I really needed to take a break, and we were in the transition. It was a great time for me to take a break. We went from one agency to the new. What was the name of the gentleman that pitched it to us? Tom. Tom was so good at pitching it to us that convinced Tobias and I that we don't need to look at marketing ever again. That's how good the pitch was. Yeah. And when it turns out we did need to look at marketing quite closely still.
I can still picture that meeting like it was yesterday. Yeah. Sitting in that meeting room, you guys just like, why the hell did you do that? The area the area chart showing the percentage of spend increase in Australia. And you were like, why did you do that? I don't know.
And what's very interesting about that also was a very, very expensive lesson, almost bankrupted us. But what's still interesting to note is that since the moment the transition happened, it took a month for the impact to hit. So for a whole month, sales were fine. We were like, oh yeah, they're doing a great job.
Yep.
And then literally a month later, we started to see that sales were starting to diminish.
So we actually did you a big favor. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
But I think it did actually work out positively in one way, because it
could have been cheaper ways of
could have been cheaper ways of doing it, but it really showed that Google Ads was working at driving traffic to the website, right? Because we lost a chunk of traffic from the UK and the sales tanked. So we were pioneers of incrementality tests back in 2012.
Yeah, no A/B needed. No, just go for it.
But then I guess that kind of proves, because that has been like a real big driver of the growth of 77 Diamonds, hasn't it? It's been a very
I mean, paid ads is like the whole business growth is infused. It only really grows thanks to incremental additions and refinements and increase in budgets, and over the years that has gotten more and more refined compared to the no hands free
Yeah.
approach at the beginning. I think now we're yeah, it's the total opposite, right? We look at so many details to make sure every single pound is it in the right place, and we keep refining it more and more. So it's a night and day. But how many years has it been to get to from there to here? It's yeah, it's
Well,
14 years basically.
yeah, yeah, it would be 14. Yeah, I
Mhm.
said 12 at the beginning, but it is 14. Yeah,
Yeah,
because we've always been very precise about the way that we manage things, haven't we?
yeah,
And I think we've got some exciting stuff coming, haven't we, with the possibilities that AI brings. But
yeah,
even when we took over 7 years ago as Propel, the whole transition was to single keyword ad groups. It was still around having thousands and thousands of keywords and having really tight control and manual bidding and things. And it's night and day to what we run now, isn't it? Everything's driven by a Google algorithm that you sort of half know what's going on in the black box, half not, and you've just got to do your best to try and control it, haven't you? But I think it still works though, right? As in it was a driver of growth 14 years ago,
yeah. It still is,
and it still is.
today. And unfortunately, it's as important as it was.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
Yeah, and it's
Google have done well out of it.
the barrier to entry is lower because the AI has made it easier for everybody. But I think you still need to still have a lot of tricks and need to know a lot of things to make it work for your business. It's not just about managing the ads; it's about how well that traffic that you generate then converts on your website. So it's very symbiotic with how your website's built and the messaging on the ads and on the website, etc. So there's still a barrier to entry, even though it's a little lower than it used to be.
Because I guess the biggest win that we had right in the beginning was that we reduced the cost per click quite significantly in the first few months of working together again. And that's still the same. Those same fundamental challenges still exist, don't they? It's still about trying to buy the traffic as efficiently as possible, even though you have less control, making sure that the quality score is as good as possible, because at the end of the day, it's a cost per click model and you want to try and buy that traffic as cheaply as possible.
And it's as dynamic as ever. The only thing is you have less, as an advertiser, as an agency, you have less control on that dynamism. That's what makes it a little bit trickier in a way. It's easier and a little bit trickier at the same time.
There's trade-offs, isn't there, between the control versus doing what's good for the algorithm.
Yeah.
And you can't always have both.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to make those trade-offs and decisions.
Yeah, I feel like Google always gives you a few options, and then suddenly one of the options disappears, and they slowly but surely lead you down the road that they want to.
What makes Google more money?
Yeah. Yeah, more money, or I don't know if it necessarily always makes them more money. I think it's they go for as they went public, they go for something that seems to be more profitable in the short term, and then that's instead of something that always necessarily will be better for everybody in the long term. I think that's the trade-off.
I think they had a really long-term view, didn't they, previously, with the way that they built the business, and I think that they've massively focused on short-term profits in the last 7 or 8 years. In the way that the search product is built, there's so many more ads now. It's probably not such a good experience for the end user, whereas that was always their main focus previously, is what's best for the user, whereas now it's what's best for short-term profits.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But you can't blame them for that. It's the way the world works, and it's capitalism.
Yeah. Eventually, it'll probably give an opportunity to some other platform.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. Well, I mean...
Probably not soon, but eventually.
But then it'd be so interesting to see how all of the LLM ads play out as well, right? Because that's probably the biggest threat to Google, I would think.
Yeah.
But then I don't know whether that's... I still feel like we've not really seen decreasing volumes through Google, have we, from a paid perspective? For like those people that have got the really sort of commercially driven search terms, I think you still use Google for that. Maybe there's way more research that you would do on a ChatGPT or Gemini or something.
I think that there's a lot of people that are just not using LLMs in the same way as somebody's working with an LLM platform already is. So I think the majority of people are not using it. Still sort of searching for certain things on Google. I don't anymore in the same way as I used to, or very much less. The amount of time I used to spend on Google was 100%, right? In terms of what I'm searching for now, it's maybe 10%. So for me personally, that's already shifted massively.
Yeah.
And if, somebody that's working with it, and I think that's just gonna spread through the population, right? So
Yeah.
So eventually, that will be what we don't know exactly is how the LLMs are going to monetize the platforms, and that's the main question mark. Also, Google itself has its own AI, right? So it's also already competing to get margin in that space and market share in that space, and so yeah, it is already, the whole thing is already shifting. Yeah.
I think for a business or for an e-commerce retail business like you guys, people will do the research on the LLM and they'll get to the point at which they know exactly which products they want to buy, or like which cut of diamond or which metal, or they'll know a very specific product that they want to buy, having done lots of research. And maybe a couple of years ago, it would have taken 20 or 30 Google searches to get to the point of knowing what it is they wanted to buy. And there was maybe lots of clicks on ads that were a result of that. And maybe people bought from you, maybe they didn't. Whereas I think now it will probably get to the point when people know the exact product they want to buy. And then then they'll go to Google and just put that, like a longer tail search, a more specific search, rather than just typing engagement rings into Google. It'll be something a bit more product specific.
Yeah.
But I think all of the LLMs will end up putting product ads, like shopping ads, in the platform. So then it will be all about making sure your feed is as well optimized as possible towards those really specific searches, and that you can match to all of them, because that's the metadata in the feed is how the LLM will know whether you sell the product or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the whole education phase in the early days it's still important because you still need it for the AI and for the crawlers to read through the website and for SEO, etc. But it's actually less useful for the user. So you're literally creating an education page for bots these days that allow the AI to then have a slightly better way of educating people and bringing them back to your website ultimately.
Yep.
And it's funny how a lot of the work that goes into copywriting is now we're literally humans writing for bots, whereas we used to write for humans. Kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah. How did you, so in the early days of 77 Diamonds, how did you come about to know that investing in Google was the right thing to do? Because I think when we first started working together, you had a healthy budget. It wasn't like we took you guys on and you weren't spending very much. It was still a healthy budget for back then.
But we had already had more than 12 years of marketing when we started with Propel. And even before that, when we started with the previous agency.
That's what I meant back then.
Oh yeah, but we already had about 5 years marketing.
And had you already been advertising on Google for 5 years prior to that?
Yeah, we started from the beginning.
Okay.
Because also, if you think about it, we never had a high street store. So where are you going to get your traffic from?
Yeah.
Especially in those days, right? You had Yahoo, Bing, Google.
Yeah.
Don't even know if Bing was popular back then, but you had Yahoo, Google. And what else are you gonna do? We could have had better SEO from the start, which we did at certain stages, but that wasn't always stable. And social media was very early stage.
Yeah.
Very early stage. You had Facebook basically.
Yeah.
Which we were doing okay on, but we weren't going viral with anything. We weren't even thinking about we didn't even think that was an option.
Yeah.
Or we weren't trying, or I don't remember what we were thinking about it.
I mean, back then you probably got loads of free reach, didn't you? Facebook, people used to actually see your posts, didn't they? You used to post on Facebook and people would see it.
People would see it, and that would probably have been good enough for us. So we weren't thinking about how do you make something go viral. It wasn't like a thing that companies try to achieve, whereas now you do try. And I think there were probably lots of lost opportunities, some lost opportunities that we just weren't aware of back in the day. And so naturally we ended up focusing more on Google and paid search, and you know.
And you probably had a bit of a first mover advantage as well, didn't you, over other people having started earlier? Because I think back then there was an advantage in just if you're running paid search, that was the advantage. You didn't necessarily need to be good at it back then.
Yeah.
It was good enough just to be there. How do you think that's changed over the years? If you think of the competitive landscape on Google back in 2012 versus where we are now in 2026?
I think it's twofold. On the one hand, you have more and more people that started using Google to search for things and to buy online. Because also you have to remember that the first step is to start using it to search, which was adopted very quickly and did really well. But the next step is then you got to be comfortable enough to actually buy online rather than just searching online. And so in our industry, it was buying engagement rings online, or engagement rings full stop. It's probably one of the industries where buying online became comfortable at the later stage compared to other industries. And so whilst we had a first mover advantage, it took a while for people to get used to and comfortable buying online. So I think it all sort of happened organically, as we were able to justify increasing the budgets. More and more people started to feel more comfortable buying online, etc. So yeah, I don't know, because could we have pushed the needle harder? For sure. How much, we would have had to have, and ultimately for us to grow bigger, faster, we would have had to have bigger outside investment too, because you can't just push something harder in a non-organic way unless you have a lot of capital behind you.
And the infrastructure has to move with it as well, doesn't it? Like the quality of the website, the number of people, the showrooms.
The scalability is always an issue. You'll have growth pains along the way, which we've had. And if we had pushed it non-organically, the growth pains would have been even stronger at certain stages, which means you require even more capital injections. So it would have been possible, but we would have needed a whole plan of action around it. And even the way we've done it more organically, it already created problems at certain stages. So yeah,
because we probably have a lot of clients that talk to us and just think that it's a tap that you can just turn on. And Google's just this magic dust that you can just get more of it and it'll make you grow more. But I think that we always push back on that idea, because there's probably a limit to how much you can spend versus what the business can maintain and actually do profitably. So I guess that's also the point, right? Is that it's got to be profitable. It's got to be.
Yeah, just to expand on that, what I'm saying by an organic growth versus a non-organic growth, for me, it's more of if you push your marketing too much too soon, it's not gonna be profitable. That's what I mean by non-organic growth. It means it's gonna you're gonna get more visibility. That market might not be ready for it, or then the products you're selling on the website might not be complete enough. So for example, we'll convert a very small percentage of users on the website. A lot of that is to do with the products that we have on the website. There might be some products that are not there, or the price point's not right. So the range matters a lot. So to make the most of it, you need a fuller range. But then does that marry well into your brand ethos? There's all sorts of questions like that. So it's more than just pushing spending more on Google and you'll sell more. It's a lot has to do with how are you ready as a business? Are you going to be able to turn that investment into profit? The number of showrooms that you have today, purely online e-commerce sites, they don't, actually a lot of investors, they value a lot more I've got a blank. They value a lot more the multi-channel. Omni-channel.
Yes.
So having a showroom as well as online. And all that takes a lot of time to set up properly, to make sure you're growing at the right pace in the right markets, not make mistakes along the way. And so that's what I mean by an organic growth versus a non-organic growth. And We've never really grown organically, so I don't really know. I haven't experienced what that looks like, but that's got to be quite intense.
Quite stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys were probably ahead of the curve on the omni-channel thing as well, right? Because back in the day, I guess there was probably a big push. Investors probably wanted pure play e-commerce businesses, didn't they? And it was all about being online, and online being this really efficient way of doing business. And you don't need physical shops; they're not going to exist. We don't need those anymore. But you guys always maintained that, didn't you? And that's probably been something that's worked really well for the business.
Yeah, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's a product that requires a lot of people thought, and does require a little bit for some people. They still want to come in, and not everybody, but especially if it's the higher value items or the type of person that you are. And what's funny also is people like they design led in most instances, but once they choose the design, they got to pick their diamond if it's an engagement ring that they're buying. And so a lot of the times they like to come in and play around with the different settings and have the other experience. Sometimes experience it as a couple as well. I guess it's a nice experience to have with your loved one too.
I've been a customer. I've been into the 77 Diamond showroom a few times. I didn't have a clue what I was buying, didn't have a clue what I was doing. And you kind of need that hand holding for someone like me who's totally not taken the effort to educate themselves in what it was I was buying. You kind of want someone that's there going to hold your hand and sort of show you what it is that you need, what you can get for your budget as well.
Actually, so we're going back to that. And as a customer, do you have any feedback for us?
Did I have any feedback for you? Do you know what? I think the thing about 77 Diamonds that's maybe different to other e-commerce businesses is the fact that everything is handmade and tailored, and and that takes time. And I think as a customer, sometimes you have this expectation that you're going to be able to buy something and you're going to be able to pick up the product the next day. That's obviously not how it works, right? When you've got a product that's sort of handcrafted and you've got real sort of craftsmanship behind it, sort of you have to factor that into your lead times.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is important if you're looking to propose and making sure you do it in time. I've definitely got friends that didn't account for that, who have bought rings thinking that they'd be able to get it within a week and then realizing that that's not actually possible.
It is if you buy something off the shelf somewhere. But that's a good point, actually, that we don't talk about enough on our website or through our stories, that everything that you see on our website is designed in-house. And we're getting there. Yeah.
So we've been working together as Propel and 77 Diamonds for 7 years now. I think it's probably worth talking about some of the highs and lows that we've been through over the last 7 years. I think we caught up about this. We've had wars, we've had Brexit, we've had COVID. How did you guys deal with those setbacks? They've been massive setbacks, haven't they, to a lot of businesses during those periods? What kind of advice would you give to other businesses that have kind of got to go through those difficult times?
Yeah, we had all sorts of issues. And I think at times you just wonder, even if I do everything right to the best of my ability and everybody else's ability around me, is that going to be enough? And sometimes, very often, you just don't know.
And that's all you can do is your best, isn't it?
And all you can do is your best. And I guess once you do everything material that you can think of doing, the next thing you can do is start praying. Everybody has their different version of that. I certainly had mine. I did that as well.
Did it work?
I guess it worked because we're still there.
Proof.
But yeah, just do the best you can and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have one advice actually that's a little bit more outside the box, because you I think first of all is when you go through difficult times, not everybody, but a lot of people tend to become more humble, which is a good thing, and it's a good time to listen to others as well. And it's a good time to push what you have full conviction in, because others will start to be a bit more receptive as well. So it's a good time to decipher between what's a waste of time and what's crucial. And so I think that's something that that we did well as a business. I think that I did well. It's also during those times that you push yourself the hardest, and you'll never push yourself as much than during harder times. Whether even if you think you could or should, because you want to reap the benefits afterwards, and you want to continue. Once you've managed to turn around the situation, in the end, you don't tend to follow through in that with the same intensity, and maybe that's healthy as well, because you don't want to keep that intensity all the time. I don't think that's sustainable. But yeah, you definitely, it can also unlock certain things in you that you weren't sure you had in you to begin with. So I think that's overall, you can try and turn that into a positive experience.
Yeah. And there's a lot that you learn from it, right? Like you've got a huge library of learnings in your brain that you can apply to every scenario that we come across moving forwards now as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think one of the things that comes out again and again is when you're in a crisis, sometimes the cause is obvious, but very often it seems obvious, and actually there's multiple things happening at the same time.
Lots of coincidences.
And in hindsight, you think, well, actually, yes, that was the cause, but there was also X, Y, Z that maybe was even more important.
That can sometimes be the danger of having access to so much data as well with something like Google Ads or Google Analytics, is that you're always looking in the data to try and find the thing that's broken. And sometimes the data doesn't exist. And just because there isn't any data doesn't mean the thing didn't happen. But you kind of get so into the data, don't you, that you're trying to find the root cause.
Yeah.
And it may not be visible.
It may not be visible. You often need to act as a consumer and go through every step and try and ask yourself, as a consumer, would I actually, and maybe sometimes even ask somebody else that hasn't been looking at the website day and night like you have. That helps sometimes as well. Yeah.
Cool. So we touched on some of the harder periods of time that we've been through in the last 7 years. What do you think has gone well over the last 7 years? What do you think have been sort of maybe cornerstone moments for good business performance?
So what's gone well? It's a much harder question.
Lavishing praise is always harder, isn't it?
Coffee break. I think, I mean, the last 7 years in particular have been challenging, right? Because you did have most of the issues you mentioned happen in the last 7 years. You had a lot of disruptions in the world in general, and for business owners in the UK, especially with Brexit, to complicate matters. Especially if you're a business that sells outside of the UK as well. And so localization is very important, has been very important for us. And that's, ironically, is one of the things that has gone well. We were able to overcome these challenges. We were able to localize the website where we needed to have the right messaging to alleviate whatever worries consumers may have on each side of the channel. And to build on that, we opened most of our showrooms in the last 7 years as well. We opened in Dubai as well. Another issue recently with the war starting there. Luckily, it's 1/14 of our showrooms, whereas in the past, if you have all your eggs in one basket in one country and you have an issue in that country, that's much more fatal more easily. And so. Yeah, I think the main thing is just try and be ready in as much as you can. Like one example is the fact that we were able to get the COVID loans maybe more quickly than other companies because we were about to raise money just before COVID happened, and so we're never going to manage to raise money in the classical route with that event. But because we had all the decks ready, we sort of had a bit of an advantage proposing it to the bank, who, by the way, didn't give it to us immediately, but that's another story. But eventually we did get it. And just be prepared, right? Luck favors the prepared mind.
And do you think that over the last 7 years, it's changed your view on performance marketing or marketing in general, on kind of how you should approach periods of time like that?
Sorry, say that again?
So do you think that through the highs and the lows, has it changed the way that you think about marketing and performance marketing? different schools of thought would say that when times are bad, you should continue marketing because you want to stay present in people's minds, and then that will help you bounce back on the other side. But equally, you don't want to be throwing good cash after.
Yeah, I think if when things don't perform well, you just got to cut back. That's just what you need to do to some extent or to a large extent. Finding right when something gets shaken, you got to find your balance again. And I think that's the name of the game, is always finding the right balance. The issue, if things end up going not well for a prolonged period of time, it becomes a bit of a mission impossible. So you got to reinvent yourself or do something, because just mathematically, and today, especially for business owners, you have the real inflation rate is maybe closer to 5% or something like that. And that means you need to grow at a minimum of 5% just to stand still. Those extra sales don't just come because everything's priced higher. It doesn't work like that. You only start to really understand that once you manage a business. So you got to create those extra sales, depending on what you're selling as well. In our case, diamonds have actually devalued in the last few years. So whilst gold has increased in value, so it was a bit of a mixed bag for us. And but ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that to increase 5%, you need an increase in revenue, an increase in the number of items that you're selling. That means you're probably going to need more people to cover that increase. That increase in people is going to increase everything by more than 5%. Now you're something at like 10%. So if you don't manage to grow your business 10% every year, you're going bankrupt. So yeah, so you gotta be creative and
Never stop grinding.
And never stop grinding. Be creative, and if the minute you need to rebalance yourself, okay, sure, rebalance yourself, but don't forget that not soon after you're gonna need to find a way to grow again.
Yeah. Okay. So if we were to think back to maybe in the context of the work that we've done together over the last 7 years as well, of kind of we've probably moved or made significant changes to the strategy off the back of changes to the Google product as well. And I guess one of the big ones is around automation. When we started working together in 2019, everything was very manual, everything was very controlled, and I can't remember when exactly it was, but there was a point in time where we made the decision to go all in on the automation, and then everything since then has become about feeding the right data to the algorithm and giving the algorithm more and more information. How has that affected the way that you manage the business? Because I guess before we used to have so much control and we used to be so prescriptive around where we spent our money, and now there's an element of you've kind of just got to it's not hit and hope. that does it a disservice, right? But there's a lot more left in the hands of the Google gods, isn't there, as opposed to before when you could really dial up the most like minute of campaign or keyword or search term or audience or something like that, whereas now it's kind of much more about feeding the right business data in and making sure that data aligns with the underlying business logic that drives the business forward.
I mean, that's your job, isn't it? Right?
That is my job, indeed. That is my job. But without having a good understanding of the business, right? That's the critical bit, isn't it? Because I think maybe to go back to 2012, when you could be good at PPC just by having a campaign, that doesn't work in this day and age, does it? You can't just be good at it. You have to understand the business, and you have to translate the business and the customer into something that works so the algorithm can understand the business and the customer.
Yeah, I think today you need to have a lot of data points. It's that by the feedback, right, that you give it, and for us it's a bit more difficult because we don't sell something that's low value, and so you have a relatively low amount of purchases compared to budget spent or traffic to the website. So you need to find ways to have more data points, which we did, and create a structure of evaluating how much those data points are worth, etc. And ultimately, again, it's about making sure the website just converts as well as it can with all those data points, action points on the website, and understanding, because also as you grow, we now have a lot of different regions. We have certain countries with showrooms. That creates a new element, right? It's a new environment, more data to feed the algorithm, etc. So it's a dynamic space, right? You just got to always adjust as you grow as well.
Yeah. How so thinking about the way that we have to translate the customer journey back into the way that the campaigns are managed and the way that they're optimized, what's changed in the customer over the last 7 years or even longer? How has the customer changed for 77 Diamonds?
Yeah, at the core, it's still the same story most of the time, right? In the majority of cases, it's a boy meets girl and decides to propose and buys her an engagement ring. Probably gets married, or in the past definitely got married soon after. And I think what's changed in the last 20 years is more men meets women, because it tends to happen a bit later. It has tended to happen a bit later. The Office of National Statistics shows there's less and less marriages as well, in the UK at least. It's been in decline for the last 50 years probably, or 30 years at least. Maybe not 50 years, maybe more like 30 years. I don't remember, don't quote me on that. But it's been in decline, and I think that what's happening is you have a lot more, an engagement ring means marriage. Marriage means you're going to have to spend some money on the wedding probably. So it's quite a big investment beyond the engagement ring. But I think a lot of what's been happening, maybe, and that's my gut instinct also, is that you have people that get engaged, they get an engagement ring. Today you can buy a lab-grown diamond, so that the cost of an engagement ring is not necessarily as high as it used to be. Although, as I said, gold has gone up in price. So, but you can get away with something a little bit cheaper than before, perhaps. And then I think in many cases you don't necessarily get married as quickly after. In some cases, maybe you don't get married at all, but you still get the engagement ring. And also you have more higher divorce rates. So you have more second purchases of engagement rings. You also have maybe people that bought an lab-grown engagement ring when they were younger. And now it's been a few years that lab-growns have been around already. So you start to see some people that maybe bought it when they were in the early 30s, now they're getting towards the late 30s, and she wants a natural diamond, so he'll come back to get the natural diamond. So even though things are not looking so good on the Office of National Statistics front, I think all in all it kind of rebalanced itself. And let's not forget also that there's still more business coming online, and that is still happening every year.
And you guys are obviously managing to take market share. If things are in decline, then you're obviously taking more market share, right? Because
yeah, absolutely,
it's a growing business.
Yeah, and then like I said at the beginning, we're also trying to make sure we're not just known for bridal jewelry. And I think before the podcast, I sent you this. I was trying to figure out when was the first piece of jewelry ever found archaeologically, and you can go back to 150,000 years. Not even Homo sapiens, right? Neanderthals were creating jewelry back then. So when people say diamonds are forever, I'm going to argue and say jewelry is forever.
Yeah. Nice. One other thing I wanted to speak to you about, because I think there's probably always been let's call it a dynamic that's gone on between balancing brand and performance. So for a luxury brand that probably certainly takes a lot of care over the perception and the general branding of the business, sometimes there's tensions with performance, right? Sometimes the performance data might tell you that you should go down a certain route, but some people might think that that's not particularly good for the brand. I always remember back in 2013 listening to a discussion between you and Tobias on the phone. I was on the call, but I wasn't talking. You were just discussing whether or not to do a Black Friday sale or not. And I think you were quite keen and maybe Tobias wasn't keen, and there was just a lot of back and forth. And That seems mental that was even a discussion now when you look at it now. But that's always been something that you've had to navigate, isn't it? You can't always just go for the obvious performance route because you have got a brand that you've got to look after. How do you navigate that?
I think there's often a misconception because over the years we had a few brand specialists and social media specialists, and that came in to try and give us some advice. And they always do what they think is best, which apparently requires speaking for ages to everybody in the company to really understand what the brand is about. And I've come to realize, Rob, that I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
You can swear, absolutely.
Not total bullshit. There is some element that's useful, but near total bullshit, in my opinion. Because the one thing they all missed in what they were doing, unfortunately, I was not as wise as I am today, and hopefully I'm not as wise as I will be in 10 years. But the one thing they never asked is, how do people find you? Where do you get your traffic from? And if they did, they'd skipped over it. Because it's one thing to ask. It's like, you create a company and everybody's in a bubble, and they're all following what they think is the right for the business, or what they think will please the leaders of that business, or whatever. But really, what's actually true for the consumer? How does the consumer view your brand? That's the first question that anybody working in that space should ask themselves. And the social media example is another, also something that turns me upside down. But eventually we got there. We figured it out. And actually, what happens is you're buying a lot. So as we mentioned earlier, we're buying a lot of traffic through Google. So you're buying that traffic. It's a certain type of client that's searching for certain generic keywords, right? And they're not searching at that point for 77 diamonds, right? So we're not Buccellati or Hermès or Cartier, and they're coming to the website and they know we want to buy a Cartier ring, and we're ready to spend XYZ because we know how much that is anyway, and that's part of the lifestyle and blah, blah. We haven't built 77 diamonds like that. And if we did, it would be a different business. It wouldn't be an e-commerce website. So you got to understand who you are, right? As it's like the fundamental thing in life. It's like, know thyself, right? Every religion has that. And it's the same with a business, know thyself. So instead of hiring an external brand specialist, first of all, know thyself. Where are you getting your traffic from? And once you get that traffic, what's the competitive nature of that traffic, right? Because people are going to find you looking at those generic keywords, and what are they comparing it with? So then are they comparing it because they want to buy something cheaper? Are they comparing it because they want to see something they like more, or because they trust the brand? It's a mixed bag of all of these things, ultimately. And so once you understand all that, so it's a very long explanation, but to go back to your point of discounts, you can make a better decision on, is it appropriate to offer a discount on your website? Are you an e-commerce website? Yes. Is that what you probably need to do to convert better? Yes. So then what do you think you need to do in the end? Should you offer a discount or should not offer?
It's like the nature of Google is that you're there. More than likely, the person that's clicking is comparing.
Yeah.
It's highly unlikely that they've come through Google and you're the only website that they've clicked on. They're going to be looking at others, aren't they? And then price will always come into it.
Yeah.
And there's different ways of getting that message across, isn't there? You don't have to be, bargain bucket. You can still do it in a classy way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, also it's in the end, you're trying to convert better, but that doesn't change anything about the ethos of the business, the quality of the service, the efficiency, the people behind the business, etc. So I don't think it cheapens us in any way. It just helps us convert a bit better and be more competitive, right? With the type of traffic that we generate to the website.
Yep. Cool. We are going to run out of time pretty soon, so I've got two more questions I'm going to ask. So if you were a founder looking for a new performance marketing agency, you obviously don't need to say anything good about us, but you're more than welcome to if you want. What would you be looking for in an agency? What do you think is the most important thing in having a good agency partner in performance marketing?
I think what I've noticed, especially with young businesses, is that it's not about how good the agency is. It's about how ready are you as a business to start marketing online. and how ready is your website? Is your website converting at all? Because if it's not without marketing, is it likely to convert with marketing? Probably not. So I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing is you want to have an agency that you trust, that has a little bit of a proven track record, either through the person you're dealing with or as an agency. Yeah. And then you want to make sure that the way that everything is managed is done. I love, I don't like having video calls where I'm not looking at something on the screen. I don't like it when there's no follow through after the call with no summary. I don't like it when we start the next call with no feedback from the previous call. I don't like it when we don't look at trends. So these are all things to look for, I think, when you start working with somebody, with an agency. That's what I would look for.
Yeah, they need to mold to your needs, not the other way around, right? They need to be flexible around the client.
As well.
Not one of these stuck-up agencies that, it's our way or the highway. This is how we do it. If you don't like it.
Yeah, that sounds good sometimes. It's red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, cool. And then really quickly, last question then. So what does the next chapter look like for 77 Diamonds? What do you guys have planned?
So we will, obviously, as I mentioned, we need to keep growing. That's a prerequisite. How do we, fund that growth, or not fund that growth, but how do we keep growing? It's simple. We're going to keep expanding geographically. We need to as well make the business key for every business in this day and age to make it more scalable. So there's improvements on the IT side needed still. And also maybe with the product range is another thing we're looking at as well. And to be honest with you, it sounds a bit vague, not vague, but it's broad. But that's a lot of work already. Those three elements are a huge amount of work.
But all the work you've done today has helped grow the business, hasn't it? So I'm sure those things are going to contribute to more growth in the future as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Vadim, we really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. I think it's been really enlightening hearing the story. It was really interesting for me to go back over some of it as well, through the kind of natural ups and downs that we've been through together. But yeah, really appreciate the time that you've taken, and here's the 7 more years of growth with 77 Diamonds and Propel.
Likewise. Thanks, Rob. It's been a pleasure coming.
Cool.